Joining us is Democratic candidate for Texas Attorney General in the upcoming runoff, former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski. Sir, thank you for coming back on the program. How are you?
I'm great, Michael. Good to be back in Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Good to see you. Let us talk about this runoff. But first, the March primary. In the March 3rd primary, you garnered around 26% of the vote, less than first place finisher State Senator Nathan Johnson, who received about 48%. What are you doing now to appeal to Texans who may not have voted for you in the primary?
Right. Well, the good news is you can forget the March 3rd numbers, other than the fact that 52% of voters didn't want Nathan Johnson. So I'm starting with that as a healthy proposition. Now what I'm doing is speaking to the family, as it were, the Democratic base who want a true progressive. As a former mayor who understands local leadership issues, as opposed to my opponent, who has been schooled in Dan Patrick's Senate for 8 years, and he's had to, unfortunately, compromise on a number of MAGA-related policies. And that's not good for our base. Instead, I'm reaching out as an attorney who has more experience than my opponent and a former mayor, and I think that that is resonating with base voters in the Democratic runoff.
You mentioned your belief that Senator Senator Nathan Johnson has compromised. In what ways?
Well, in the 89th legislature, the most recent one, he voted to limit SNAP benefits. He voted to suppress free speech, actually being one of the two Democrats who joined all Republican senators to pass the Campus Security Act, which limits students' free expression after 10 p.m. Well, the good news is, Michael, University of Texas, Dallas students sued, and a Reagan appointee federal judge found the law unconstitutional. Also, Nathan unfortunately voted to put Proposition 16 on the November 2025 ballot. That was the constitutional proposition that clarified you had to be an American citizen to vote. Now, we knew that already. My question for Senator Johnson is, why are you giving oxygen to the MAGA agenda like that? Oh, and don't forget, he voted to ban pride flags as well. A very unfortunate record.
Now let's talk more about your policy stances. It's my understanding you want to create 3 new divisions in the Attorney General's office, including a division of affordability and value-related concepts. Affordability, of course, a big topic for many voters right now. What can the AG's office do to reduce costs?
Well, I wonder why it's not happening already, but under my leadership, Michael, we will have lawyers, for example, appearing before the Public Utilities Commission to fight Encore and in the Houston area, CenterPoint, for their 2 times a year rate increases. You know, it's not like the stock market where it goes up and down, it just goes up. And yet there ought to be a people's attorney at every hearing when these transmission companies or these energy providers seek to hike our rates. Same thing in front of the Texas Department of Insurance. Why are there not lawyers from the Office of Attorney General taking it to State Farm and Allstate? Or on the healthcare side, Michael, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Cigna, etc. It's because the Attorney General is receiving funds from the lobbyists that support the insurance. Someone needs to tell the Attorney General who the real client is. I will do that because I know what it is to be a lawyer for men, women, and children, and I will do that as your next Attorney General.
I do want to ask you, I'll just reference, Encore and CenterPoint specifically. If they raise their rates, is that necessarily illegal? I mean, is there something the AG's office can really do about that?
Yes, I think so, because there are
consumer issues. You think so? Do you know it's illegal?
It's not a question of it being illegal. It's a question of it being a consumer protection issue. And when people are making good profit off our rates, under the statutes and the regulations, do they need to have an actual hike? The Attorney General can be the commercial pushback against Encore. There have to be reasons for why a rate hike is merited. Just because they ask for it doesn't mean they should get it.
And there are several other divisions in the Attorney General's office right now, it's my understanding, including the Child Support Division. Anything you would like to see changed about the Child Support Division?
Well, two things. One, I would like the child support to be collected more efficiently and dispersed to the possessory parent on time. Because, Michael, the bills come every 30 days and you either pay them or you're in trouble. So the child support needs to be timely as well. The other thing is the people that are going into the dozens and dozens of AG satellite offices, the child support offices across the state, are the ones that are being hurt the most by the current mean system of government. And I promise you this, Michael, when I'm the Attorney General, I'm going to make sure that we have deputy voter registrars in every satellite office under the Office of Attorney General so that these men and women who are on the margins of society relying on child support to make the basic bills are also given an opportunity to register to vote. That way we will increase the voice of the public. They always say Texas is a non-voting state. As Attorney General, I'm going to change that.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you want to kind of streamline the process for the division. How exactly do you go about doing that?
Well, here's what I want to do. I want there to be transformative divisions. You talked about the affordability and value one. That's never been done before. The second one will be voter encouragement, and that is going to involve registering every high school senior who graduates from public or private school. Michael, it's over 500,000 18-year-olders. They need to be invested with the American franchise upon graduating from high school. And then finally, a division of ethics and integrity. Now, you would imagine that already would exist, but it doesn't because the best whistleblower in government is the Attorney General. Unfortunately, for the last 12 years, the Attorney General's had the whistle blown on him. He's survived every single exposure, and the only reason he's leaving is his own ambition. Well, time for a Democrat to serve in the office, and let's get state government to do what it should do, which is serve 32 million Texans.
Let's talk about the Ten Commandments. After a recent court ruling by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Ten Commandments can now be displayed in Texas public school classrooms. Your thoughts on the ruling?
Well, our public schools are for teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic and civics. I learned about the Bible at my church when I was confirmed in the Presbyterian church when I was 13, and that worked just fine. The idea of putting the Ten Commandments on every wall is, a fever dream of Mays Middleton, one of the Republican candidates for Attorney General. And, what's sad to me is that they're doing that instead of something about, guns, and security at schools. So simply hanging the Ten Commandments isn't really going to change much. I do think that it violates the United States Constitution. We ought to be hanging the Bill of Rights. There's 10 amendments to the Constitution, and that is something I think in a secular, non-sectarian setting like our public schools, that is what we ought to be focusing on. And also, it's causing Ken Paxton to sue a whole bunch of school districts, Michael, who are already on the ropes financially. So MAGA Mays Middleton needs to call his buddy, Attorney General Ken Paxton, and tell him to back off.
So you feel this Ten Commandments law that's been passed by the legislature is unconstitutional?
Yeah, and the United States Supreme Court is going to have the final say. I'm sorry the Fifth Circuit got it wrong, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just a lawyer, okay? I'm not on the Fifth Circuit. But I tell you, if this case is still wending its way up through the courts, by the time I take the oath of office, God willing, then I'll be taking a position that the Ten Commandments ought to not hang in a public education setting under the First Amendment.
So you do not plan on enforcing this law if you are elected?
I plan on being the people's lawyer and representing the Constitution, which would have me taking a contrary position before the United States Supreme Court. And that's what I'll do.
In our last interview, you mentioned that your office's relationship with the Trump administration would be hostile. What would you say to Texans concerned that the state could suffer as a result of that relationship?
Well, the state is suffering because of the current relationship. So I'm going to do everything in my power to stop the excesses of the Trump administration. Mr. Trump himself personally is not doing very well. It's obvious for all to see. But his staff are very crafty about leveraging their relationships with Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, and Ken Paxton. I'm saying that voters in Texas need to imagine a balance in state government. For example, the men, women, and children who are being subjected to the excesses of ICE need a champion who are going to allow local authorities to separate policing and immigration, two valuable American institutions. But the Trump administration is conflating the two, making it seem as if all immigrants are criminals. And that's simply never been the case, and it's not the case now.
Is there anything, whether it be the first administration or so far in the second term, that you feel has been done effectively, you may want to build off on or work with the administration for if you're elected?
We're talking about the Trump administration?
Correct.
Well, right now, the war effort in Iran is shadowing everything. But I'm just trying to think on the fly here, something that is going well. I think if you've got money, you're probably making more money. I would like to see some of that wealth distributed in the form of health care. So if there is great money still left in the federal government, I would like to see some of that come home to Texas in terms of a full Medicaid match. I mean, Michael, we send our hard-earned dollars to Washington, D.C. because the law requires us to pay taxes every year. I'd like to see our fair share come home.
If you could tell voters about one initiative you took on as mayor of Galveston or a legal case you've been involved with that you feel describes who you are as a person, what would you mention?
I think I would have to go with my standing tall on behalf of working families in Galveston. When Hurricane Ike damaged 80% of the structures on the island, all the public housing got wiped out. Now, Michael, this was long in the tooth, sort of built in the Kennedy and Johnson administration, and Galveston got close to $1 billion from Housing and Urban Development to redevelop the island. I had to rebuild public housing, but instead of just building apartments back that might risk looking the same way in about 20 years, we went big and we went for mixed income housing. So I took a real risk, but I won because we put doctors and lawyers, nurses and firemen, teachers, income eligible workers, and the seniors in 3 beautiful mixed income communities. Now, this is something that Henry Cisneros did, the former mayor of San Antonio, when he was Clinton's HUD secretary. So I took a page out of that book. Michael, it was a tough road because the racists and the bullies in Galveston didn't want me to succeed, but we stood the test and we got it built.
You feel there should be more housing built in Texas right now, or there's an inadequate level of housing, and how do you change that if elected?
Well, I absolutely do. And, I don't know that the Attorney General is the, housing guru in government, but I would certainly be able to help local officials, mayors, county judges, who have the principal on the ground power of zoning and achieving housing grants to build more local housing. Because the current Attorney General and the current Republican administration in Texas don't give local governing and local decision-making authority any respect at all. It used to be a Republican value. Well, they've abandoned it. And it's good policy to let cities be cities and counties be counties. This is my promise. As Attorney General, I will help local governments because it is an amazing and important part of Texas government. Localities will have a friend in my office of Attorney General.
Now, the Republican Attorney General candidates, State Senator Mays Middleton and Congressman Chip Roy, have said they would like to see Plyer versus Doe overturned. That 1980s decision requires schools to provide funding for undocumented students. Where do you stand on Plyer versus Doe?
Well, let me say that I stand opposite their position. I also believe in the Texas DREAM Act, which allows in-state tuition at colleges and universities for dreamers who have graduated from a Texas high school. So if you don't mind, I'd like to combine both of those since they do discuss immigration and education. Look, again, it's a valuable American institution, that of immigration. I mean, my family immigrated from Germany in the early 1900s, not that long ago. And we are now, on a fourth generation Jaworski lawyer in our family. We have been servants of the Texas bar. We were immigrants once. My question is, are the people that are coming now from south of the border who are of deep faith, hardworking, and family values, are they any different? I demand, Michael, that Congress do its job and come up with a sensible immigration policy so that these hard-working Christian, often, and family values groups can stay here and continue to contribute. Part of that is being educated. We want our youth, wherever they're from, to be able to read, write, do math, and understand civics. And public education is guaranteed to us free in the Texas Constitution. So I object and do not agree with my colleagues who are on the Republican side of this runoff.
Let's talk about the border. How secure is the border now in your view, and what role, if any, does the Attorney General's office play in border security?
Well, I'm going to go back to the difference between immigration and criminal justice. First off, as Attorney General, I'm going to be a real problem for the cartel and for anybody who is coming across the border to commit crime. It's not been done since, I think, John Cornyn's brief half term as Attorney General. You'll recall he got elected in '98, but then ran in a special election for U.S. Senate. But he was actually somebody who used the Special Assistant U.S. Attorney Protocol. It's called a SAUSA. And all this means, Michael, is that you can use some of your generous billion-dollar biennium budget to hire mature prosecutors and essentially pay for them out of the Attorney General's budget, but loan them to the Western District and the Southern District of the United States so that you have border prosecutors that you, as the Attorney General, can say, here's what I want them to do. In this case, it would be drug and human trafficking violations done by the cartel. So the border is more secure because they have literally stopped the flow of people. And maybe that would be one thing that we can all agree needed to be addressed. So I suppose check mark for President Trump on that. And yet, I think I would go in to say the excesses flowing from that have led to ICE abusing American citizens, killing American citizens. But back to your question, I think the Attorney General can definitely have a force of mature prosecutors on the border that really keep things safe here in Texas.
You mentioned human trafficking there in your answer, if I heard you correctly. What can the Attorney General's office do to reduce human trafficking here in Texas?
Yes, you heard me correctly. Hire and place prosecutors because, there are current prosecutors prosecuting these crimes. There's just not enough of them. You give more resources, we'll catch more people in our net. And, again, criminal justice is a great American institution, and you just need to have the proper resources. All the people who complained that people were defunding the police, whether that's true or not, there is a truth in that. More resources means more prosecutors, means more prosecutions. And so human trafficking is one of the greatest harms to our youth, and it's a global epidemic. There are shocking stories every day that you read. The Texas Attorney General has the capacity to address it.
If you do not end up winning this runoff, do you plan on endorsing in the Attorney General's contest? And if so, who?
I'll endorse my primary opponent. I'll be voting and suggesting everybody that believes in me to vote Democratic in November.
So you will endorse State Senator Nathan Johnson?
Yes, and I hope he'll do the same. Well, and I'll do him that favor if he wins, and I'm sure he'll do the same for me if I win.
Well, the May 26th runoff is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Is there anything I did not ask you would like to add? Well,
just everyone needs to know that Joe Jaworski is in your community. I was in San Angelo Monday. I was in Austin Tuesday. I'm in Houston the rest of this week. I'll be in Dallas Monday. If you want to be the next Texas Attorney General, then you better be all around the state. We've now hit 80 towns all throughout North, South, East, and West, and we're just getting started. So make me your nominee, voters, and you ain't seen nothing yet. By the time we get to November, we will have won the state, and it'll be a historic moment because Democrats have been out of office for 30 years. It's time for balance. Let's elect Democrats for this open race for Texas Attorney General.
Former mayor of Galveston and Democratic candidate for Texas Attorney General, Joe Jaworski. Sir, we appreciate you coming on the program today.
Thank you, Michael.